Welcome in everyone to HogvilleNET YouTube Live. It is my in-game and post-game. About 7 minutes to go. Arkansas trails 7 at home to number 8 Florida. This feels like a must-win. It's not, but man, things really get more difficult if you don't win this game. Arkansas is putting a little dent here now, down 5 with exactly 7 minutes to play. Thero up to 15 points, just scored the last field goal. Florida's on offense. It's a game where the offensive glass work by Florida really put some separation for the Gators against these Razorbacks in the first half. Not a big gap, but the fact that Arkansas led by 9 early, just like it did against Ole Miss, saw that evaporate, and then Florida did most of the work on the offensive glass. Arkansas's got better on the offensive glass, trying to pull even in that category. The problem is Florida's been a lot better getting second chance points off those offensive rebounds, where Arkansas, maybe even when they get those opportunities, haven't been able to capitalize. Arkansas with back-to-back defensive possessions now where they've got a defensive rebound off the first miss. Arkansas has been outstanding at getting to the free throw line today. Mixed results there, but Thero is going to be going back with Arkansas trailing by 5 and a chance to cut that down to a one-possession deficit. Florida's led by as many as 11 points in this game, 10 points several times. The lead that's been cut in half to 5 as Thero, who's Arkansas' strongest player today in terms of production, again goes to the foul line and try to cut into this. Thanks again, Arkansas. We know 11-4 coming in, 0-2 in league play, and not again. This is Thero, a volume free throw shooter, and he steps to the line and misses the first of Arkansas's in the double bonus, I guess. So he'll get another one here, but this is Arkansas's problem. Now Arkansas's missed 8 free throws today. Thero goes 0 for 2. So this is an Arkansas team that is we've seen this team really struggle at the foul line. This is an interesting game where Arkansas actually is getting a much higher volume of free throw attempts than it averages on the season. DJ Wagner, after Arkansas got another defensive stop, just went down the lane for a lefty dunk. The lead's down to 3. It is now a one-possession game. 53-50, 6:09 left. Florida calls a timeout. That was big time. Arkansas's really struggled finishing at the rim. The free throw line now, I believe Arkansas is 17 of 26, 9 missed free throws. I think Thero's got nearly half of the misses, 4 or 5 of those. DJ Wagner's missed 1 or 2 today. And it was Trevor Brazile in the first half that kept Arkansas in it. That could have ended up being a 10-point deficit at halftime. And Trevor Brazile got a tip in at the buzzer. Arkansas actually trailed only by 3, but did some other good things. 7 points, 5 rebounds, and a couple of steals in that first half. He got a transition dunk after getting his steal. But Arkansas's missed a ton of layups. I counted at least 10 at one point. If you add in some of the missed tip-ins, and if you count those, because they should count as offensive rebounds and field goal attempts at close range, even if you don't designate it as a layup, Arkansas's just missed a ton of opportunities at the rim. Arkansas's played a lot of good defense in this game, in initial defense, and then can't close it out with a defensive rebound, and Florida's been able to score off of that. And then when Arkansas has breakdowns defensively, they're glaring. I mean, it's an easy score. So, 2 or 3 possessions in a row, you play solid defense, can't close out with a defensive rebound, and then maybe 1 out of 3 or 4 possessions, your defense just has a complete breakdown and someone strolling in for an uncontested shot. Arkansas's missed layups. Florida's done a good job of contesting layups, but it shows that Arkansas is not a tough team in terms of dealing with that and finishing through that. But when I came on here a couple of minutes ago, Arkansas had closed after being down by double digits in offensive rebounding, were then won 14-13, but the points off the second chance points were still 14-6 Florida, so plus 8 there. Arkansas shot more than double the amount of free throws that Florida has. Another possession now where Florida gets multiple opportunities to score after offensive rebounds and a 3-pointer by Walter Clayton Jr. So Florida's up to 6 threes now. Arkansas, when I was coming on here, had made only 1. So I think Arkansas is 1 of 12 or something like that. It's really bad. Arkansas's 3-point shooting, 21% in the first 2 games. We've talked about that, and then today, the Razorbacks are under 10% from 3. Only made 1. That was early. Arkansas went out to a 5-0 lead They do with the turnover, not being careful of the ball. So Arkansas finds ways, even when it got back into this game here. This is as close as Arkansas's been this late in a game in SEC play. I don't think Arkansas got closer than a 4-point deficit once Ole Miss took a second half lead. And then down to the last 5 minutes, Arkansas couldn't get it closer to 6 and kind of oscillated back and forth from a 10, 11-point deficit to they got it to 6 once or twice. But they got it down to 3. Now it's back to 6 because of that Clayton 3 off an offensive rebound. He just missed a 3, and Florida out-hustles Arkansas to get another offensive rebound and a foul called on Arkansas. So I'm kind of doing everything delayed here because I can't give live play-by-play. But the point is, this is Arkansas's undoing. This is not the tougher team in any matchup yet. It's not been the better coached team in any SEC matchup yet. Arkansas's outcoached. You could argue that even as hard as Arkansas plays, there are lapses where guys ball watch because they're – and to me, that goes back to coaching. If your guys are not locked in and you don't have them understanding what they need to do to be proactive and not reactive, that always goes back to coaching. So it's not that they're not playing hard. They are. But it's little moments. When you're playing really good teams every game like you're going to see in the SEC, there are going to be moments in the games or in possessions where you won't win them if the other team's better prepared than you are and is playing a better proactive game than you are. And that's what we see today. Florida hasn't shot the ball well in this game. Florida's got 6 made threes and probably taken 25. Again, Arkansas cutting the volume of attempts down, but they can't make them. So they're getting beat in the three-point department, even though they've shot a lot more free throws. It's a game now where Florida's back up by 8, going to be 10 after Arkansas doesn't get back in transition defense. Another bust and another one of those situations. It's just what I'm talking about. One team's just a little bit better in the details, but when you're a little bit better for 40 minutes in the details, it adds up, and you can look a lot better on the scoreboard. A 10-point lead feels like not much because Arkansas stayed connected, but with about 6 minutes to go or whatever it is, 5 minutes, as we go to a timeout here, Arkansas had to call a timeout. The deficit's 10. No, talent alone doesn't make a team. Great comment from James Barnett. Talent alone, because if you look at all 3 matchups, Arkansas has as much talent as any of the teams it's faced. It just doesn't have a team relative to what these other rosters are putting together. Florida has an identity. They go and crush the offensive glass. The top offensive rebounding team in the country are right up there, 15.5 per game, and we're seeing it today. They're on a path to have over 20. And then it's just the little things, not getting back in transition defense, having slow or no rotation off ball screens or 50 or play busts. Sometimes when a play busts, who's going to win the 50-50 ball? Arkansas doesn't win enough of those. And then the opponent has an advantage and someone gets an easy score off a busted, just off of either a busted assignment, a slow rotation, or not winning a 50-50 ball. So 4:33 left, Arkansas down 10. This is likely another situation where Arkansas now has to be almost perfect. Arkansas doesn't have, in my opinion, a go-to type of guy. Nelly Davis, 0 for again today. He was 0 for against Tennessee, had 15 points against Ole Miss. And this is teach any basketball on his players. Does he teach basketball? Yeah, he teaches basketball. Adu Thero with a missed layup. He got fouled on it. Arkansas is just not tough. You got to finish these plays. Arkansas's missed. Thero's missed a wide open layup, driving hard baseline. The guy's 95% effort, 95% heart, 4% stick-to-itive, and 1% ball skill. And that 1% ball skill, the lack of that starts to show up when that is your primary score and your leading score in games like this. He's not a takeover kind of guy. You might get a possession out of him in a one possession game where he bully balls his way in, but he's not a shot creator. He's just wills himself to find ways to score and get to the bucket. But then when you play like that, you're going to get fouled a lot. You got to make free throws. He did just make both on that trip. So Arkansas with 4 minutes now down 8 as Florida operates on offense. More good initial defense by Arkansas, late clock, good ball movement by Florida, and a 3-point shot goes in. Arkansas back down 11. This has been, I think, the largest deficit Looked like Boogie Flan got fouled on a three. I think he'll take 3 free throws after this under 4-minute timeout. Arkansas down 11. I said Arkansas needed to be probably perfect to win this game. They're not. So this looks like Arkansas is going to start 0-3. Look, Arkansas, I've said it forever. For the longest time, I've said several things. One is this Arkansas team looks like a middling SEC team at best, and maybe on the top part of that middle group, if they can get things together and eliminate some of these issues and get all hands on deck. Well, now they've got everybody playing, but not everybody's playing well. I mean, the 2 preseason all SEC picks, even though Jonas Adu's back in double figures today and has had a few moments, it's just not been a strong game for him. Nelly Davis, over. I mean, I hate to say this, but Nelly Davis has brought bust value to this team. He has been a bust value to this team in terms of what was expected out of him and what was believed to be would be his role as Arkansas's primary scorer shooter. It's not that he had to be number 1 in that, but he needed to be in the top 2 or 3. He's nowhere near that. He's nowhere near it. And today, I mean, just a lack of, ability to finish. I mean, he's had open looks from 3, can't knock them down. A driving layup in the second half, he couldn't make that. He's not been a shot creator whatsoever. We'll see that again today. Boogie Flan has struggled today. There is a big learning curve for the true freshman, as talented as he is. This league is loaded with really good players, great design and coaching by these programs, and they're attacking him. You saw Clayton Jr., who's not had a great game in the second half, just get leverage on Boogie Flan and just telegraph one direction he's going. Flan gets caught anticipating, and then Clayton hits the gas and drove in and got a couple of layups. When in a game like this where you're not shooting well or playing well, getting some easy scores helps you out a little bit. And then he stuck a 3. Elijah Martin, the transfer from Florida Atlantic, has been the far better, averaging 16 points a game, been the far better guard transfer for Florida than Flan's been for Arkansas. That's just telling it like it is. It's being honest. But Arkansas is headed to 0-3 without a miracle here when we come out on the other side of this timeout, which means perfect basketball and forcing turnovers and getting Florida rattled. That's what it's going to take. Now, Flan, it looks like he'll be shooting 3 free throws. If he can make all, Arkansas's got a chance to get it down to an 8-point deficit. Still a 3-possession deficit. Right now, it's a 4-possession deficit. And so there's enough time left to be perfect, I guess, and get a win here. And then we'll reverse the talking points. But when I came on here, Arkansas was 14 of 49 on the field, 28%, 1 of 11 from 3. It's worse than that now. They were 16 at 22 at the foul line when I came on, but I think they were 17 of 26. And they've improved from there because I think Theo ended up hitting 2 in a row, and then somebody did, and then he hit I'm not sure now, but Arkansas's missed its share of free throws, and it shot a lot more than Florida. That was an area where Arkansas could maybe maintain contact, but you just missed too many of them. You missed too many of them to be maybe down right now by 6 points in a 2-possession deficit. It's a lot more manageable. Okay, they're putting the free throw stat up. 19 of 28, Arkansas's missed 9. Florida's 10 of 14. So you're plus 9 in makes, but you've doubled this team up. 14 more attempts. You just had to be better. Again, a little bit more efficient, and you're in a 2-possession deficit. The margins, I've said it over and over again, the margins are too difficult against this kind of competition for you to not to capitalize. You have to squeeze down on your lack of efficiency on the free throw line. Arkansas hasn't done that. Let's see what Flan does here. Arkansas is going to be up to 31 free throw attempts. It is a low volume attempt team from the foul line on the season. So this was a gift today. As physical as Florida plays, I think Arkansas has actually been a little quicker in certain things, and it's forced Florida to foul. But Florida is so good offensive rebounding. It doesn't matter how quick or athletic they are. They play a certain way, and it's part of their MO and part of their makeup and their DNA. And so whether they're as quick or as athletic or not, it's just who they are, and they get to the ball. It's a part of its anticipation, just how they're coached and how their scheme is set up and what their players are taught to do. All right, so Arkansas, Flan made all 3 free throws. Arkansas's 22 of 31, still not good enough in a game like this. 9 misses, but they're down 8, 3:42. Arkansas pressed. Florida's at the other end now shooting free throws, so I can talk about it, not live play-by-play here. But Arkansas tried to get a steal on the inbound. Brazil aggressive. Both teams in the double bonus now, so you might have wanted to see not fouling this early down 8. You've got, you want to get a stop and get the ball back. You don't have to foul now, so that's a little bit not advantageous, but you get a miss on the first free throw for Florida. So the Gators are now 10 of 15 at the line, 66.7%. So Arkansas is just a few makes away from really having a chance to pull this out without having to be perfect. Again, they almost have to be flawless here. Down 9, 1 of 2 free throw trips. So Arkansas is on offense. But this is a game, really, when you look at Arkansas trying to battle back and get on the offensive glass on its own and make that a little more competitive. They did that, but the margin was so big to begin with on that. Florida still has an advantage there. Arkansas had one possession early in the first half where teammates were throwing the ball to teammates that weren't there. Not just once, which was bizarre, but twice on the same possession, making a pass to a vacant spot where there was nobody there and nobody anticipating a pass. Or a player's head was turned, not anticipating a pass. So the ball was in no man's land. Just an odd Arkansas team right now. In SEC play, these teams are just better. They're better as teams. Arkansas is not on the level yet. Individual pieces there, we say it over and over. Arkansas is no stranger program-wise to bad starts, poor starts in SEC play. We've seen it over and over again, year after year. That doesn't give this team an excuse or an out, but you start to scratch your head and wonder, when does it change? Arkansas has now missed 10 free throws at the line, trying to cut into a 9-point deficit with 3:15 left. This was, again, Arkansas needed to probably be perfect here in the closing minutes. Far from it. An 0 for 2 trip at the foul line for Arkansas. The Hogs have now missed 11 of their 33 free throw attempts. That's 66.7%. That's easy math. You're not going to win against a team like Florida shooting that poorly at the foul line. And forget what Florida shot, because they've been better than Arkansas. As bad as they've been shooting from 3 and overall from the field, they're exponentially better than the Hogs. If you look at Arkansas so far in SEC play, it's not that any of these teams are just killing Arkansas in shooting percentages, but Ole Miss did for a half, the second half, the one that mattered. Tennessee was under 40% for that game, but just a little better than Arkansas. But all of these teams have been, even if their 3-point percentage doesn't look great, it's been a lot better. Not just the percentage, but the amount of makes, the volume relative to Arkansas. So if that's the case, where are you going to make it up? You got to make it up somewhere. Arkansas hasn't been winning fast break. It was a team coming into SEC play averaging 17 points per game transition. I'm not sure they have 17 points yet in 3 SEC games. They had 12 combined in the first 2 games. The last I checked, they had 4 points in transition. Let me look at that. Fast break, 4 points. So 16 points when I came on here with about 8 minutes left in transition total in 3 games. They were averaging 17 points in transition per game. Thanks, quad 4 opponents. Yeah, thank you. But this is showing you where Arkansas's problems are. What was a team strength is now a nothing burger. They're not winning transition. Not only did Arkansas only have 4 transition points with 7 minutes to go in this half, 8 minutes. Florida was a little better, but had doubled Arkansas up 9-4. So that we've seen that continue to happen as well. Arkansas is not giving up a ton of transition, but they're not getting any. The Arkansas needs to get live ball turnovers and get out in transition. They had a small advantage in turnovers when I came on here, +2, but it hadn't mattered. It's the glass work, the putbacks, points in the paint relative to that. Florida's back at the line with a 9-point lead and a chance to add to it, and missed a free throw. Florida can afford to miss some free throws here. It's not preferred, but the 3-possession game, 9 points with 3 minutes left, and Arkansas can't count on Arkansas. Arkansas has too many 0 for 2 trips to the foul line and then 1 for 2 trips. So it's a 10-point deficit, 65-55. Arkansas gets Carter Knox on a drive and fading away from the basket, taking a shot. Arkansas, I said it, Arkansas doesn't have a go-to get me to the finish line score and shot creator. Boogie Flan's the closest thing to it. and he didn't even have the ball in his hands to take a shot or get it to someone else to. Flan with a pull-up three after Arkansas gets a stop. Just what I said. Boogie Flan's that guy. Pull-up three, knocks it down. He's the guy that the ball needs to be in his hands, and he's either creating a shot or setting someone up for an easy shot off of his drives and dribble game, because he's the one. He's the one guy you can potentially count on to deliver here. He's the only guy that's proven it in Arkansas's 2 close game wins against Miami and Michigan. Michigan was a little bit more of a dicey deal at the end of that game, where Arkansas had to get some defensive plays to win it. But Fland is Arkansas's best shot creator. So that's Arkansas's second 3 of the game. Arkansas just doubled up its 3-point shooting with that 3. And it's a 7-point deficit with 2:25. Not insurmountable. This is doable. I'm 21 minutes in. Thank you for joining me on HogvilleNET YouTube Live. Please hit like, subscribe, share, anything you can do to help us that. We appreciate it. Now I'm far enough away from this. I don't know all the stat advantages for either team other than Arkansas is just trying to find a way to stay in this game. Thero's been in double-digit scoring. Jonas Adu. And Flan now hitting a 3 and making 3 free throws. That should have him in. He's got 12 now. So in the last minute or couple of minutes here down the stretch, he's got to the free throw line and made 3 threes. He hit a 3, so he's got half of his 12 points in these last few possessions. If you remember that Miami game, he had Arkansas's final 7 points, in a game that up to that point he really hadn't shot or scored very well. But he'd done a lot of stuff to help Arkansas stay in that game, and he ended up with 18 points. But 7 of those came in the last minute 40 something of that game. And so this is another situation where you really don't want anyone else taking a shot unless it's off his creativity or he's taking the shot. Arkansas doesn't have a go-to guy outside of him. He's the best shot creator on the team. And I think he's got the stones to be the guy to do it if anyone's going to. Thero's not on the court, so I must have missed it. He was playing with foul trouble. Very likely he fouled out. If he did, I completely missed that. Man, Florida's a really good basketball team. Answered with a 3 off a paint. Florida's done a good job when it's needed to get a bucket of getting a paint touch and either turning that into a score. Another shot by Knox. Arkansas's headed to a loss here. But also getting into the paint and then kicking out for open threes. A lot of teams have done that to Arkansas this year. Arkansas has a really hard time defending the second or third part of a play. Maybe they'll stay in front of the initial drive, but they sag in on drives and at the expense of leaving open a 3-point shooter. Florida has its biggest lead of the game, 12, 70-58. Condon's hit a 3, now scored at the basket, 70-58 with 1:23. This is an Arkansas Razorbacks loss today. Now it goes from being perfect to Arkansas needs Florida to resign at this point to win this game. I mean, it's not crazier things have happened in terms of finding a way to win with right around 1:30 left down 12, but it's very rare. It's not going to happen today. Arkansas is going to start 0-3 in SEC play. The Hogs last year started 1-6 through its first 7 games. The year before that, the team that went to the Sweet 16 and finished 8-10 in the SEC started 1-5. The season before that, the second of 2 Elite 8 teams, Arkansas started 0-3, will be identical to what this team did. I think the difference between those teams were Arkansas's identity, at least, except for last year where they had no identity, similar to this team. Last year, the identity, or prior to last year, the Musselman identity, his teams were just grit, grind, and defense. And other things that were problem areas kind of got better, and there was marginal evolution and improvement around a solid defense. And even though some of those games where they started poorly weren't great defensively, you could see the threads there to weave a team that was more consistent defensively and then build around it. This team doesn't even have that because of all the mistakes. There's a lot of self-inflicted wounds on both ends of the court. Calipari, they've got a graphic up. A loss today would mean 0-3 for the first time for him since he was at UMass in 88-89. It'll be his first 3-game losing streak since he was at some point at Kentucky. Kevin, I hate to say it, but we made the wrong hire. Look, I mean, that's debatable. That's a fair point to bring up. I think it's too soon to make that determination. There's a lot of basketball to be played, but look, this makes this LSU road game a must-win. If this wasn't a must-win, that LSU road game is a must-win now, because if you start 0-4 with this team, I think the wheels might come off. Missouri's good. You got the next road game there. Georgia and Oklahoma are no slouches. We said this many times. This is arguably the strongest any conference has ever been, ever. And Arkansas is not a good team. They're an assembly of good pieces, not a good team. Not a good team. So Arkansas just had a turnover. I'm not sure what happened, if they called a foul. This Hoft guy that came in and really started hitting the glass early set a tone for Florida. Looks like Cal doesn't care. Look, this isn't Cal's first rodeo. I don't think it's that he doesn't care. I think he's trying to maintain composure and provide some kind of leadership in the sense of, we'll turn this around. You got used to a coach as good as he was for 3 years out of his 5. That the ups and downs were like a roller coaster. Really, really high, shirt gets ripped off, run around the court when you win big games, and really, really low where you might get yourself intentionally thrown out of a game. And I don't think that kind of leadership necessarily long-term lends itself to anything positive. Vice versa, conversely, if you think Cal looks nonchalant, I mean, the post-game pressers after these games, he's not hit the panic button. I doubt he will today. We'll see what his response is. Arkansas just had a 2-for-2 free throw trip back down to a 10-point deficit with 1:12. But I think now you must split this road trip. Because if you lose, and LSU's probably the one that's more winnable, who knows how it'll play out. But Arkansas at this point staring at 0-5, this team's not tough enough from what I'm seeing to overcome that. They're just not tough enough. And we've been saying it. There's an element to this where Arkansas looks like at best a middling team in the SEC. Right now, they don't even look like that. They look like a bottom dweller. The program was a bottom dweller last year. These are really, really good teams Arkansas's played. I certainly feel that way about Tennessee and Florida. I think Ole Miss is really, really well coached. Maybe as well coached as anybody in the country. They don't have some of the players I think that Florida and Tennessee have. And I certainly don't think Arkansas is having a shortage of talent here. It's just they're not good. 10 seconds left, 70-60. It's now just what's the final score going to be? Looks like Florida's going to shoot free throws maybe here. The Gators are an impressive team. Tennessee and Florida are two of the teams. If you looked at Auburn and Alabama, maybe the SEC has 4 teams at the top. When you look at them, you'd say, yeah, it feels like it could be eye test and watching. I mean, Florida can play however you want. They can grind with you. They got a top 20 rated defense, top 15 rated, 4th coming in the nation in offensive efficiency coming into this. Weren't that good offensively today. So give Arkansas some credit here for mucking this up, but Arkansas is not the kind of team that can play ugly against teams that are capable of playing that way, because it's the little things that add up and lead to something not good. Makes sense that Boogie Flan would bank a 3 with 4 seconds left to get the margin down to 8. Florida's going to inbound the ball. I mean, you have back-to-back home losses, one by 7 points and the other by 8. And look, these were games where probably Arkansas was a little closer to getting over the hill here because they were down by 3. And we were talking about it. I said, now at this point, and Florida just executed better than Arkansas did. And Arkansas missed just enough free throws and just enough layups today. And, just enough long stretch of just getting destroyed on the offensive glass to where this was the Hogs undoing. All right, so that game's over. Arkansas 11-5 now. The Hogs and Lenardi at this point, he was doing his updates just once a week, every Tuesday. Joe Lenardi, ESPN Bracketology. And now this is the point in the season when the calendar turns to January, we starts doing it twice a week. So Tuesdays and Fridays. So Tuesday, before Arkansas lost at home to Ole Miss, the Hogs were still a 9 seed, despite getting beat on the road to Tennessee. Still holding ground as a 9 seed. I've been saying for a while when that was the case, they're not far from the bubble. Well, the bubble, the way the projection is going to look on the next update on Tuesday, because Friday, after losing to Ole Miss, Arkansas had slid from a 9 down to an 11, one of the last 4 byes. So not a play-in, but the last team on the last 4 byes. So the next rung is a play-in, and I don't know that Arkansas will even be a play-in 11 seed projection on the next Lenardi update on Tuesday. They just might be the first 4 out or the next 4 type of thing. They didn't get blown out today. This is a Florida team ranked top 5, 5th in net. But yeah, Arkansas competes hard. They're just not as prepared as these other teams. You watch Arkansas's offense. I mean, look at the first half when they tried to run 2-man game out high with Jonas Adu. He got left on an island out there. Florida did a really good job of covering up Arkansas's perimeter players who were trying to move in position to get a pass, a release pass from Adu, and they couldn't. So he was stuck trying to handle the ball and back his way in. You saw another play where Brazil had an ISO. Even though he was Arkansas's probably best player in the first half, he backed his man down into the paint, but instead of getting closer to the basket, he actually backed further away from it. So when he got from the paint, and what maybe could have been a 5-foot shot, it was an 8 to 10 foot shot. He got fouled. He made 1 or 2 free throws. But the point is that Arkansas's big men, when you put them in, when you give them the ball to go to work, that's not going to be very effective for Arkansas. And then Arkansas's guards didn't do enough today to create penetration, to draw, to help, and then pass to a cutter. You saw it a couple of times in the second half with DJ Wagner, with Thero and Jonas Adu. You saw Flan have some success on another Adu bucket. I think it was a dunk, but there was too little of that. Usually when Arkansas's guards were driving in, they were trying to get all the way to the basket to score. So when the help came, Florida did a good job of contesting shots. That was part of some of the dynamic with Arkansas missing layups. And then once you get challenged a lot, sometimes it gets in your head. So even when you have an open layup, you smoke those too, and you blow them. And we saw that in this game. So this is an Arkansas team that's not mentally as tough. They're not playing physically as tough consistently. You'll see stretches. And by that time, they're not good enough in the areas they need to be in to close margins where they're getting beat. They're not getting it in turnovers anymore. They're not getting it in transition anymore. They're not getting it at the free throw line in a game where a gift was handed to this team that doesn't shoot a lot of free throws. Couldn't capitalize. I mean, basically, I think they ended up making 2 more. But at one point there, here at the end, when the game was really over, they'd taken 33 free throws and missed 11 of those, 66.7% at that juncture. Game was over at that point because you couldn't capitalize enough in the margins where you helped yourself to get there more than Florida did. That was an area where you could make up for not hitting any threes where the other team was. That was an area where you could make up for getting destroyed in the second chance and points in the paint. Those were all areas where Arkansas had to find somewhere else to get it. Not getting in transition, not getting in off turnovers. And even though there's an advantage at the free throw line, it's a second consecutive game where Arkansas against Ole Miss only made 1 fewer, but the efficiency was actually better than Ole Miss's. And then today, you had a big advantage at the foul line and couldn't hit enough of those to make this game a winnable game for you in the closing minutes. What we've always said is if the games are tight for Arkansas, they've got to win those little margin areas that make the difference in winning and losing, and they're not doing it. You got to make threes. No, I mean, I'm going to give it to you straight. I don't think I saw that comment. Arkansas's been horrible shooting threes now they got in the league play. Again, the free throw line is just it's impossible to gauge what Arkansas is going to do when anybody goes to the foul line. You got to figure Thero is going to continue to create the way he plays, create opportunities, but he's not consistently good there. And you saw Adu and Brazil get to the line today, and it's just, it's hit and miss, literally. I mean, they're going to hit 1 or 2, and You might see them have a trip where they make two, and you're like, wow, hadn't seen that in a few games. And then they're going to have some more the more they go. That's why it was important for Nelly Davis. I mean, he's a 90% free throw shooter. He can't create a shot. If you can't create a shot, you can't create a foul to go to the foul line and make free throws. It's not just about how many you take, but who's taking those shots, who's shooting the free throws. You need your top percentage guys to get there. DJ Wagner's not horrible, but he's not as good as he probably ought to be. As a freshman last year, he was 75% free throw shooter at Kentucky as a freshman. That's okay, but you need your guards to be closer to 80%. And DJ, has kind of been similar this year. You'd like to see him, Wagner, and Davis all be 80 plus. Wagner's one that hasn't been, and Davis can't create them. He cannot manufacture free throws. You have to have. I mean, watch Nelly Davis when he puts the ball on the deck and drives. He's not really looking to get a shot. He's not getting separation. He's not getting to good spots or angles, and then he continues to dribble, hoping he can find an outlet to get off the ball and pass it. So if he's not a catch and shoot, you'll see him catch and shoot. That's about it. That's his shot creation. And, he's had some games, handful of games where he's been nice in that department, not on high volume, just efficient and giving Arkansas just enough. But he's nowhere near the alpha scorer, shot creator, end of game player you can put the ball in his hand and say, go get it. That's the one thing about Musselman's teams, that they weren't good 3-point shooting teams, but they created a lot of free throw shots. They were better than this team is typically, not always, not all of his teams, but not last year's team, but a lot of his teams were, especially at the close of games, and they made better decisions at close of games than this team does. This team has more talent, I think, than last year's Arkansas team did, and it's comparable to any SEC team, really, talent-wise. It's just not a good team. It's pieces, not team. There's just not really a. Kentucky fan here. You Arkansas people are full paying Cal all that money. Well, we'll see. I mean, he's going to continue to recruit at an elite level. That's part of the equation, is getting top players. At the end of the day, if you can't win with that, then I don't know if you're a fool for getting a guy that's a Hall of Fame coach and has done. It's not like he wasn't good at Kentucky in these last few years. They weren't good in the postseason. They're mostly good in the regular season. So I think it's to say that the program's a fool for the hire is a bit of a knee-jerk, reaction to an 0-3 start. But there is a case to be made that the coaching, the importance of basketball in the SEC now, how each program has really dialed it up a notch. The recruiting's good in other places too. Maybe not quite as good as Cal's going to do it at Arkansas. But if you're getting out-coached, and the other thing is, the two guys that were all everything that Arkansas brought in had Elite Eight and Final Four experience. They were all league last year, Jonas Adu and Nelly Davis. You can look at all these reasons why that made sense to get those guys, but they're not fitting. Even Adu today with a decent, I guess you could say a decent statistical game, he's been anything but an all-league kind of performer. He's had, 2, 3, 4, maybe 4 decent games. But aside from that, now that he's healthy or close to fully healthy and playing a lot, he's not giving Arkansas the kind of winning plays at both ends consistently that you expect from an all-league guy. And you're seeing the difference between the lack of that and what some of these other teams are getting from individual players. Even guys that are all-league type guys or have been and having an off night shooting or whatever, they have stretches in the game where they're delivering and it equates to winning. That's part of the deal. You're not going to be perfect every night, but you got to do things that help equate to winning. You're not getting that from Jonas Adu, let alone Nelly Davis, who's, like I said, he is a bust value relative to what he was brought here to be. That's a hard thing to say about a player. You don't want to go there. 16 games in, you're more than halfway through your regular season. And I'm not saying the person and the individual's a bust, but the value that is brought relative to what was expected, you can't shy away from that. That seems like an obvious thing right now. Jonas Aidoo's not far from being that. Yeah, you saw Big Z, it seems like every time he blocks a shot, it leads to a second chance for the other team. One of his blocks equated to a 3-point attempt on the next after Florida got an offensive rebound. You saw him at least kind of half-heartedly battle physically for a couple of rebounds, and a smaller player won that battle each time, out being more physical than Big Z. He's just not that kind of player. He's a 7'2" guard. We made the comparisons to Connor Vanover being a guy that's 7 foot plus that likes to shoot threes, but they're not necessarily going to give you that physicality and blue collar stuff that you need consistently. And Arkansas is just not getting it. I mean, Trevor Brazile and Aidoo today, maybe statistically here and there's some things you can look at and take away from it. The problem was that Florida's front line gave as good, if not better, in terms of, those blue collar hustle play stuff. And it took Arkansas a while to try to catch up in some of that. It's just not enough. It's just not enough. You've got to be good and tough and battling all 40 minutes in these kind of games. You can't have long stretches where now you're playing uphill from behind, where if you're a good 3-point shooting team, sometimes you can change that narrative quickly. Arkansas's not that. They haven't been, not in league play. So they're not that. They can't get them quick or easy. So if you're not winning the blue collar hustle plays and you can't get them quick and easy, and then when you create 30 plus foul shots for a team that's not even averaging 20 attempts a game, and you have a blessing today in that, you miss too many. You're not giving yourself any. There's too many self-inflicted wounds on top of not capitalizing on what might be there for you. You can't miss double-digit layups in a game like this. You can't have it and win. All right, 42 minutes in, I am going to sign off. I don't know what else there is to say. I don't have the final stats here. It doesn't matter. They all point to Arkansas not winning again. Even if there are a few little categories like the free throw attempts and Arkansas dominating there, you just didn't make enough for it to matter. But I guess if there's a silver lining, it's only that you're 3 games into the league. Either that's going to get more brutal. Again, I see LSU as, you want to say it's still too early in game 4 to say it's a must win. Fine. I think it might be. Because I think that's the more winnable of the 2 games coming up. Just looking at it and watching those teams. They're both road games. Then you're at Missouri after LSU. Then you come home for Georgia and Oklahoma. This could get ugly really fast. And now you're really out of it. Because this stuff losing becomes habitual. And Arkansas seems to me to be finding ways not to capitalize. The one outlier this season really against a quality team was Michigan. That was the one outlier. We saw it against Baylor. Second game of the year in early November. You saw it against Illinois late November. And you've seen it now for the first 3 games in SEC play. So you got 5 losses. Tennessee wasn't really a game that was in reach in the second half. But the other 4, in theory, Arkansas can only blame itself for not capitalizing when it should, and stringing together winning possessions enough to give themselves a chance to get over that hump and find a way to win. That's where Musselman's teams were really good. I remember the first Elite 8 team led the nation, led Division I in double-digit deficits in which they came back and actually won. So those teams weren't perfect. They went on that big winning streak because they found ways to be better than the other team, especially at the end of games, even when it was ugly. This team, it's the opposite. They'll find ways to be worse than the other team, even when they did a good job of mucking it up. I mean, Florida averaging 87 points per game didn't sniff that today. I guess the final score suggests they weren't too far from it, but the percentages, Arkansas did a good job in some aspects. It just wasn't good enough to win a game like that. All right, I am actually signing off now at the 45-minute mark. Again, thank you for joining me on HogvilleNET YouTube Live. Until next time, take care, and we'll see you then.